Good morning, or rather good afternoon, Year 7. We're doing a poem by one of my favourite poets today, Phillip Larkin. I think to say that about a lot of them, don't I? But Phillip Larkin is one of my very favourites. It's called Born Yesterday. But before we get to that, the do now is remember the three fairy godmothers in Sleeping Beauty. They each gave the baby Aurora a wish. What do you think would be the best thing you could wish for a baby to have? Imagine one of your siblings or your mother or auntie or whatever has had a baby. What would you wish for that baby? Particularly if it was a girl. Let's focus on a girl for today. If it was a girl, what would you wish a baby to have? Our lesson objective today is to read and analyse Born Yesterday by Phillip Larkin. So your title is simply Born Yesterday by Phillip Larkin. Well, here we are. What do you think would be the best thing to wish a baby? Happiness, intelligence, love, beauty, money, an ordinary life. Interesting, that last one. Makes you think of that Chinese curse, doesn't it? May you live in interesting times. But there we are. You probably had some of those, or maybe you had some of your own. But just to get you thinking about what you would wish for a baby girl on the day it was born. She was born. Quick check to make sure we've got everything. You need a pen in your book, a copy of the poem which I've attached to Classcharts, and the usual highlighters and coloured pens for annotation. Right, as ever, we dive into the title first. Born Yesterday. What does that mean to you? The saying, "Do you think I was born yesterday?" means that people think that you're a fool who doesn't understand how life works. So it could be to do with that. It could be to do with the vulnerability of life. A newborn baby is very fragile. It could be the start of something, happiness, a new life, a new beginning. Yesterday links to the past, so it could be about events in history, or it could be simply about a baby who's just been born. So stick in your poem into your books, and you can annotate it along with me. And obviously, any ideas of your own that you have, you know how to start thinking about these poems now. Then, by all means, include those. Okay, first reading of Born Yesterday by Phillip Larkin. As ever, focus on the bits you do know, not on the bits you don't know. He uses deceptively simple language. Um, Here we go then. Born Yesterday. Tightly folded bud, I have wished you something none of the others would. Not the usual stuff about being beautiful or running off a spring of innocence and love. They all wish you that, and should it prove possible, well, you're a lucky girl. But if it shouldn't, then may you be ordinary, have, like other women, an average of talents, not ugly, not good looking, nothing uncustomary to pull you off your balance. That, unworkable itself, stops all the rest from working. In fact, may you be dull, if that's what is a skilled, vigilant, flexible, unemphasised, enthralled catching of happiness is called. So unusual, isn't it? Have a look at that. Who do you think is the speaker, and what do you think the poem is about? Make some notes. You've got 10 minutes to do that. The speaker. Who is the speaker? The speaker is an adult. They could be a parent talking to the child, or just, I picture them just sort of standing over the cot saying this. And what do you think the poem is about? The speaker is explaining what they wish for the newborn child. They wish that the child grows up to have an ordinary life and is dull, because then they will have the chance to be happy. Interesting idea, isn't it? Sort of rather pulls at the idea of what you think being happy is, but we'll see a bit more as we dive into it. Right, let's go through each stanza separately and annotate your poem as we go along. Right, tightly folded bud, the opening line. It's a very sweet metaphor, that, describing the baby as a tiny baby flower. I have wished you something none of the others would, not the usual stuff. This informal language, the use of the word stuff, shows that the speaker thinks that the usual wishes are thoughtless, just stuff about being beautiful or running off a spring of innocence and love. This doesn't really make sense on a first reading. Is the speaker saying that the usual wishes are sentimental, meaningless, or nonsense? I don't think so. I just think he thinks that there's more to that, or possibly a danger to just focusing on those things alone. They all wish you that, and should it prove possible, well, you're a lucky girl. The speaker is saying that if you do end up being beautiful and innocent and loved, then this is a down to chance luck, not other people's wishes. It sounds a bit patronising too, as if these things aren't worth valuing. I don't think it's patronising personally necessarily, but that seems to be the received wisdom. So get those into your books, those annotations. Right, here we are. But it shouldn't. Then may you be ordinary. It's a shocking statement that when you're talking to, or rather talking about a newborn baby. So this is the wish, is it? The reader has been waiting and now we are surprised. Being ordinary is not usually something that is seen as positive. An average of talents. A talent is usually something that makes you special or stand out from the crowd. The speaker is saying the opposite here. Be as special as everybody else. There's something in that if you accept that we're all special, isn't there? To pull you off your balance, right? Nothing uncustomary to pull you off your balance. This metaphor that suggests that life is like walking a tightrope, and if you're like super pretty or spectacularly ugly, it will make life more difficult. So be ordinary. Then we get down to stops all the rest from working. In fact, may you be dull. Monosyllabic words in this statement add to the brutality of the comment. In fact, may you be dull. The dash also forces the reader to pause and focus on this shocking point. Be boring. It seems like an insult. And then we get into this last list of words here. If that is what a skilled, vigilant, flexible, unemphasized, enthralled catching of happiness is called. After the monosyllabic statements we've just talked about, there follows a contrast. The speaker then lists their reasons in a flowing polysyllabic rush of complex vocabulary, qualities that really matter in life, finishing with the final point. By being an ordinary and dull, the child will have the chance to catch happiness. Like happiness is a butterfly. Happiness is the most important thing to have in life, and the speaker's real wish for the child. So it's not saying be dull, be ordinary, really. It's saying be happy, and that a route to happiness is to be ordinary. There's beauty and happiness in ordinary life. So don't, you could argue it's saying don't aspire for all these other things necessarily, because they won't make you happy. So it's very charming in the end. Anyway, get those annotations into your books, please. Now match each of these images with a quotation from the poem. So just use the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put a list in your books of those and put the quotation next to it. That'll take you 10 minutes. There you are. There's your answers. There's actually a town called Dull, look. Right, analysing the poem. How does the writer present the possibility of having a happy life in the quotation, catching of happiness? And here it is, look, the verb, so we're talking about the word class, catching, suggests that happiness is something that needs to be trapped. It reminds the reader of a wild creature like a butterfly that is tricky to capture. This shows that a happy life is not something that is certain or that it happens without effort. Now, here are 2 paragraphs that I want you to write, and these are the 2 that I want you, this is the work rather, that I want you to upload to Classcharts for me to look at. And as I always say this, but it always bears repeating, the work I've been receiving has been fantastic under what I know for all of us are trying circumstances, but you've been absolute superstars. I'm so impressed with the work that you've sent in. So keep doing it. I do look forward to reading it and I enjoy reading it. You've got 2 paragraphs right here. How does the writer present the newborn baby in the line tightly folded blood? So you write your point. The writer presents the baby as being a beautiful, small and unformed thing perhaps, and then the quote is tightly folded blood and you analyse that. So it's really 2 pill paragraphs you're doing there, and I've given you the evidence. All right, so do that. That'll take you 15 minutes. Upload it to Classcharts, and I'll speak to you next time.